Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be Skarbrand the Exiled, actually playing Khorne, that's his name, and he is using Skarbrand, facing off against Sterngard and the Dwarves. Here on the Gates of Ekrund, which is a dwarf home field advantage, you can see the lovely Keep of Ekrund over there, or fortress or hillside manor, whatever you feel like calling it. Now for the dwarf army here, it is going to be a very, very badass army. So we have a whole front line of hammerers, actually, which I would say against Khorne, that's one of the matchups in which I think they might be decent. They do, of course, have amazing armor piercing, so if your opponent goes for any sort of armor with Chaos Warriors, you got it covered. Or if they go with Bloodletters, they do magic damage. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. Front line of hammerers, and they are going to be backed up by Garagrim Iron Fist, who I believe also does magic damage, and Grombrindle the White Dwarf. So Sterngard really leaning into the I need magic damage for demons. In the backfield, he's got Iron Drakes, Iron Drakes, Iron Drakes, and Iron Drakes. It's a wild-ass army, man. We just got like mass hammers with Iron Drakes and then 2 elite characters. So for Skarbrand the Exiled, playing Khorne here, it is going to be Skarbrand the Exiled, and he is going to be using the Rampage function. It's decent against dwarves. The best usage of it against dwarves is to get gyrocopters. So basically, if the dwarves are harassing you with gyrocopters, you run underneath it and you use the Rage Embodied, and it's going to be pulling it onto the ground. Unfortunately, the Thunder Barge doesn't have a landing animation, so you can't get it onto the ground. But as far as the gyrocopters go, that's going to be your best usage. Because usually rampaging like dwarven characters and whatnot, it's not like catching out a squishy character. The dwarves are super high melee defense, good HP, and tough to drag down. Old school style Warhammer 2, using chariots against dwarves, it's kind of fallen off a little bit, but you know, they can still do work. Anti-armor piercing, or anti-armor, or anti-infantry, man, my brain's all over the place here, as well as armor piercing. Now in the back, it's going to be Bloodletters, Bloodletters, and Bloodletters. A good choice against dwarves. Vulnerable against a couple things, however. They are going to be weak to blasting charges, and against hammerers, I don't know who's going to have the more cost-effective trade. Obviously, the hammerer will win that trade most likely, but from a cost perspective, because these guys, I think, are 800, and the hammerers are over 1,000, but they have 10,000 HP. They're so meaty, man. Okay. Bloodletters. Marauders over here just to hold objective 1, and some Minotaurs of Khorne. Now, these guys are pretty good against Dowie for sure, because they have 70 armor. Minotaurs on the Beastmen, for example, have like 35 armor, and these bad boys with 70 can endure the firepower from things like Rangers and Quarrelers, and they can do some good pushing for sure. So that's going to be it. Let's get this party started, and we will do some fast forwarding as there's a little bit of maneuvering. Khorne is going to be grabbing both objectives, and obviously we'll then be looking to come through the woods here and try and collapse on the flank of the Dwarven army. And the Dwarves are doing what I like to call a lane pushing strategy, where they're going to be gathering everything and just pushing right down the pipe of their opponent's face, knowing that their mobility isn't going to be that great at playing objective 3 out here, just consolidating all their strength. And this can sometimes work pretty well, because here's the thing, if your whole army's here and their army's partitioned in a couple places, maybe they leave some defenders on objective 3, for example, to keep you honest, then their army's going to be weaker overall in the mainline fight. But of course, home field advantage does go to the forces of the Blood God here, as Khorne is going to be able to call in some reinforcements very quickly. And against a Hammerer army, probably your best bet is going to be Minotaurs of Khorne. Granted, I mean, the Iron Drakes can't kill them. Iron Drakes hit relatively hard. Minotaurs armor will help them, but there are some Giant Slayers in the back as well. Blood Beasts, another great choice. Blood Beasts of Khorne, a little bit weaker to the Iron Drakes compared to the Minotaur, but excellent armor piercing and very high leadership at 80. So these guys not going to be breaking quickly in the face of these scary dwarves. All right, what do we have being called in here? It is going to be the Grim Delvers. No dwarf player will leave home without them, and if the Grim Delvers can catch Skarbrando in the back, he's going to have a very bad time. But if Skarbrand can get these guys in a good old rampage there, and then get the chariots into him, I mean, that could be a really MLG play for sure, if you could like abuse the terrain a little bit. But Grim Delvers do have stock, so they're very sneaky hobbitses, and can be tricky to catch. All right, guys, fighting about to take place, but we do see the Blood Beasts coming in. Blood Beasts are going to do well against Hammers, with the Marauders as the Ablative Wounds. We do see some Flyers coming in, and the Blood God is going to be getting a massive surround here on the Dwarven Elite host as the Hammers form ranks. And, you know, weird builds like this from, you know, any faction really can certainly catch you off guard. Like Mass Hammers, I would be like, oh boy, none of my infantry can handle it. They look pretty good against most of the army. Skarbrand is also very off-meta in this matchup because of the shooting and the Dwarves' ability to deal with big targets and the prevalence of Slayers too, but he's not useless, that's for sure, but you just got to micro him really well and make sure that he's able to sit down and get some good fighting in there. All right, Fury's lurking around the backfield. Blood Beasts as well. Objective is now starting to flip to the Dwarves, just barely, so they're going to need to get that one soon, and Khorne is going to be sounding the horn of war, as you do see the Bloodletters coming out of the bushes, Minotaurs coming out of the bushes as well, and the Blood Beasts and everybody is getting ready to party. So, yes, Hammers getting there with the thunderous capture weight. And on the backside, a full surround right here, very much Anticity style, trying to intercept the reinforcements. And honestly, that's a pretty good idea. Giant Slayers versus Furies is a fight that Giant Slayers would win head up, but they don't want to be fighting it. It's really cost ineffective here. So you could see that Sternguard's just going to be retreating back to his Cullen here and trying to get something that can do better. Ooh, positioning on these Grimdelvers is a little bit rough. Yeah, because this is like a hill with some line of sight issues. So you really got to like zero in, and that's one of the downsides, of course, of debug camera. Sometimes you can't really see elevations, but players who use it usually know the maps pretty well. But on the back, Giant Slayers versus Furies, a glorious battle, and the Grimdelvers are going to at least get a big salvo off before they get compromised in melee, and do pick off a couple Minotaurs. One Minotaur down to half health, and the Dwarves are going to be crossfiring one another. So we do see the Flamethrowers coming in, cooking some of these guys. Grimdelvers do have decent combat stats too. You can see they're sitting at 36 melee defense, so not useless. But now the Fury's going to be landing in the frontline fighting. Oh, glorious Dwarven firepower. And the Blood Beasts get brought down to half health very, very quickly, and the Dwarves are going to need to get that crossfire going very, very soon. Grimdelvers tied up with Chariots. Big pit fight going down here, but the Minotaur is going to be getting cooked by the crossfire of the Iron Drakes. And here we do see the Rage Embodied activated and the Flash Bomb from Grombrindle. So Grombrindle going to be slowing all the homies down, lowering their stats as well. And with Garagrim and Grombrindle here, probably these Minotaurs are going to be breaking. Two very strong fighters, and it looks like the Blood Beasts there are also on the cusp of breaking. But Bloodletters that came out of the woods were able to get a good fight going, and they do manage to get on top of Grimdelvers, which is very cost-effective, and the dreaded Gorebeast Chariots of Khorne actually having a pretty good run here, able to rip through this very elite gun unit. And in the back, we do see the Furies coming in, not Furies, but Giant Slayers that were fighting the Furies, as well as Doomseekers. But man, oh man, you look away for a second, and Skarbrand gets karate chopped. The Hammers, Garagrim, as well as Grombrindle, and Giant Slayers. These are all units that are going to be relatively decent against Skarbrand there, so that's a very tough one. On the backside, Hammers are battling it out versus the Marauders of Khorne and Fleshhounds, and they should honestly win that 2v1 fight. They, with their high armor and their good combat stats and magic damage, should be pretty nice for them. Not sure where they're going right now, just trying to stay on the point, I guess, but they should keep fighting that fight, that is for sure. So Iron Drake's back online, and Iron Drakes are a unit that even if they have like 7 or 8 models left out of their 28, they can still do some really respectable damage. Here you can see a very small unit of 13 going to be cooking into the Gorebeast Chariots, and even though it's not going to do a ton of damage, it will lower their leadership and cause them to potentially be broken. As the White Dwarf satisfies the grudge, he gets in there, he boinks one of the Chariots on the heads, pretty good. Hammers are not an anti-large unit, but they do hit really hard, have high melee attack and good AP, so if they do get an armored Chariot stuck in melee, they're going to do pretty well for themselves. So looking at the value trading, it's pretty even right now. The Khornates are doing pretty good on the back objective, though. The Dwarves, though, do have a hard counter to Bloodletters coming up, or a medium counter, I would say, because Bloodletters do okay into them as well. But it is going to be Doomseekers. The powerful bald haircuts in the 1980s flat tops are coming in hard here, and they are going to be really cutting through these Bloodletters. Bloodletters are, of course, demons, so they're going to be weak to magic damage, and these guys just terminate infantry, but they also do magic damage. It's like an extra 20% there. Yep, another Doomseeker is coming in, so the double Doomseeker, Skarbrand the Exiled lurking back here, looking for fights against the Hammers. And the Hammers are spam clicking on him. You can see that Sternguard is really rapidly clicking on Skarbrand back here. And oh, looks like he picked up a Dwarf. That guy's not going to have a good time. There he goes. All right, well, there's the old karate kick and stomp right there. But Skarbrand at 1600 HP, you know, that Dwarf, he bought time for his homies to really bite at the ankles of Skarbrand. And Skarbrand is almost, actually, yes, he is at negative leadership now. So all the demons rushing in, trying to save their Patriarch here. As Skarbrand is going to be running, Dwarves still holding onto the objective, and Dwarves looking to be in a more commanding position here. As we do see the Doomseekers and Doomseekers coming up from the Dowie, and the Hammers, they didn't hear no bell. Even though they are fighting Bloodletters, they seem to be doing pretty good. 1,000 value on these guys, obviously a lot of that from Skarbrand, 1,300 on these other Hammers, so they are in the ballpark of paying for themselves. But very, very nice plays from Skarbrand the Exiled. He was able to keep his Lord alive, so at the very least, he's not going to be taking that big leadership penalty, which for demons can be significant, since demonic crumbling and instability is very, very brutal. Now, Skarbrand, yeah, he just needs to stay alive, really, because a lot of the value the Dwarves do have in their value lead probably is tied up in Skarbrand, but there is also demonic disintegration, which isn't included from the Furies and the Hounds and different units and Bloodletters. It can be a little bit tricky to track the value in these matchups. Now, on the other side, they're basically just playing land battle over here. Neither of them are playing the other point. We do see the Dwarves surging forward. The double Doomseeker is going to be tough, but Khorne does have the points lead. So maybe they can lure the Dwarves into an overextension, get some fights. It looks like Skarbrand's going to be doing a Rage Embodied here. I think he's trying to bait the Dwarves in to fight. Maybe. Those Dwarf characters, I mean, you got to remember, Grombrindle does have Flash Bomb. So if he catches you slipping, he's going to throw some pocket sand. He's going to Dale Gribble you. He's going to throw it in your eyes, and he is going to drag you down. All right, Dwarves gathered up here versus the Marauders of Khorne. And how's this objective looking? Pretty safe. as more and more Doomseekers are being called out. And I'm telling you, Doomseekers are so goddamn good against Khorne. They're able to just like fight everything on the roster, like the large stuff, the small stuff. I mean, the worst trades for them probably are Blood Beasts and Minotaurs, but aside from that, like everything else is pretty damn good. Flash Bomb activated, negative melee defense debuff on the Khornate Blob, but Khorne looks like it's going to be trying to play the back objective of the Dwarves a little bit, as we do see a Bloodletter unit making its way downtown over towards Objective 3, although blasting charges are in reserve and they are coming out. Dwarves are going to need to get an objective soonish, though. Rage Embodied activated, going to be rampaging the Dwarven army, and here comes the counterpunch from Khorne. Maybe they can get it back here. Minotaur is going to be blitzing through and will be feasting on some of the Dwarven infantry, and Skarbrand, you know, he wants to get his hands dirty a little bit too, as the Doomseekers do take a lot of damage from that Minotaur charge, man, losing a ton of HP. But Skarbrand is taking some wounds, and the entire Dwarven army basically clicks on Skarbrand there, trying to take him down. Minotaurs going to be bowling pinning through the blasting charges, and even though, you know, the blasting charges look very cool, they're not going to be good against armored Minotaurs. Minotaur's really going to take these guys to Pound Town, and they're going to be having a pretty awful time there. In the meantime, Skarbrand is Benny Hilling around, and that's really good, you know, good play from the Khorne player by still keeping Skarbrand in the fight and also forcing the Dwarves to chase him, right? Because every second the Dwarf army is mass clicking on Skarbrand away from this objective, Khorne is getting more points on the board. And if Khorne can get it to a situation where they can win on one objective and just hold up on Objective 3 with some mobility and call in some Marauders on the far side, they probably just win the game, right? Minotaurs here doing great work. The blasting charges are being used, but how many times must these Dwarves be taught the lesson? Blasting charge is not going to be doing any damage here. Giant Slayer's hot on the chase. Skarbrand sitting at 900 HP. As the Dwarven Death Star here is going to be getting afflicted by the Sword of Khorne. It won't do too much damage against the kind of heroic infantry types. It still does some respectable work, as the Dwarf army is going to be surging forward towards Objective 1, and Khorne is for sure going to be ninjaing the back objective. There needs to be some Doomseekers, some Slayers, something back here. Maybe send one of the Doomseekers to the back objective and partition your forces off a little bit might be good. Here we see Khorne calling in Gorby's Chariot. Gorby's Chariots will be okay against Doomseekers, depends on the charges, but if Grombrindle has Smoke Bomb or Flash Bomb, he is going to be able to lock those down. And the Dwarves here, they're just chaff units, and they're fighting some of the most elite anti-infantry units in the game. I mean, not the most elite, but as far as their like price category goes, these guys are absolutely butt kickers against infantry. And yep, Bloodletter's able to rout them with the Minotaur support. And now we got Iron Drake, and some tattered Hammerers who are going to be on their way back in, as Khorne is going to be stealing that objective right there, and the elite Dwarven force does steal this point, but they can't stay here. Probably your best bet would be to leave two of the Doomseekers here and then take Grombrindle and Garrigram and one Doomseeker back and get this objective. You got to do something like that. If you just sit there, I mean, obviously Khorne's just going to win the game, right? Flamethrowers are online, and they are shooting, but the Minotaurs are able to trample through the fire and the flames with the dreaded Blood Beasts. And these are units that are born and forged in fire. Khorne has got all sorts of fire and volcanoes in their hellscapes, and looks like they're pretty comfortable here. Iron Drake's getting pushed back. Dwarves, what are they going to be calling in? Most likely going to be Slayers of some sort, but no, he's just going to be overlapping Iron Drakes and hoping that they can stabilize here. And we do see a Gorby's Chariot getting slowed down to only 48 speed, but it is going to be able to waddle away. So now I think we're starting to see Khorne take over the game a little bit. Skarbrand really didn't hear no bell. Sitting at like 900, 800 HP, 894 right now. Able to rout off and terror route some of the Dwarves here, so it is relevant. And Dwarves just calling in mass Iron Drakes, because honestly, he probably doesn't have much else to call in except for maybe Hammers, which would be a better choice. But the Fleshhounds getting cooked by the fires of the Ancestor Gods. Negative 15 leadership on those Fleshhounds. They're going to be unstable and crumbling there, so one of them is going to be offline, but then you got to deal with the big old Minotaurs. As the Dwarf army does waddle back towards this objective, we do see it's going to be, yeah, within, like, it's pretty much already a triple cap situation here, which I think is going to be near impossible for the Dwarves. They've played very well with their elite build. I've loved it, but I think a little bit of positional blunder and with some of the unit allocation, but not by much, honestly. It was pretty good play on both sides. So Skarbrand's going to be weaseling back. We do get Giant Slayers being called in. Giant Slayers are what the Doctor ordered, that's for sure. They're going to be able to take down these Minotaurs very, very easily. You can see they got their big old great weapons, and these Minotaurs, though taking some Dwarves with them, will be getting thrown into the old trash can. The Dwarves are going to have to play a triple cap here. Honestly, if they want any chance to win, they're going to have to start calling in chaff units on the other side and hope Khorne doesn't react to it. You just gotta spray and pray. So right here, moving around, we do have Doomseekers. Yeah, they're all chasing. They need to be, if he had done what we talked about earlier, left a couple units over here, pulled these guys back, he could probably hold the double cap, because two Doomseekers could fight off a Blood Beast as well as a Marauder, most likely. On the back, Gorby's Chariot still rampaging. This is all very good from Khorne, basically keeping the Dwarvish units here busy, making sure they can't advance up and get involved in the fight. Are the Dwarves going to go for it? We don't see any Collins right now. Currently, Sternguard, I don't think he has too many chaff units in his army, outside of maybe like 3 or 4 blasting charges we did see. Iron Drake's not going to do any damage against the 130 armor of the Gorby's chariot there, so the chariots are going to be feasting on their souls. Meanwhile, the dwarves are finally going to partition their forces a little bit, so we do see some of them going over here to fight for this point, but it's probably a little bit too late for that. Grim Delver is going to be creeping towards objective 3 here, and the forces of Khorne looking to be in control here. Value trading is also even-ish. I would say dwarves are ahead in value overall, with demonic disintegration being included. But it's not by so much that they can just overwhelm their enemy and do as they please, right? So Garagrim and Grombrindle going to be fighting for that point. The double Doomseekers heading over to the Marauder point, and the Grim Delvers, are they moving? They are moving now, yes. So they are going to be heading towards objective 3. 1,400 points coming in, ladies and gentlemen. And I think Skarbrand the Exiled, he's not going to be exiled from the battlefield. It looks like he is going to live. No swords to plowshares. He will not be exiled. There are no stack interactions here, as Skarbrand is going to be fleeing the scene. Objective number 2 here. Held by the dwarves, but Khorne does have a nice critical mass here. But with Giant Slayers and the 2 heroes, they might be able to hold it off. A couple Iron Drakes still going there, but the Gorby's Chariot's doing some nice work. And ladies and gentlemen, I think that's going to be it, right? Doomseekers are giga-chatting this. Maybe some weird comeback in the last second here. Let's watch. Khorne does have this one. Grim Delvers and Miners are coming over there. But he only has, he just got not enough time. It's 15 seconds left, basically, before the game's over. Doomseeker is going to be closing this objective down. Dwarves are able to get this one, and I mean, look, if the Dwarves had another 20 or 30 seconds, they could maybe win this game, or have a chance at it, because with the Grim Delvers arriving over there, they will get it, but it looks like the Blood God is going to be getting the last laugh, and honestly, some really top-tier maneuvering from Skarbrand. Teasing with Skarbrand himself, playing the objective game very well, while keeping the value trading even-ish, despite a rough start of having Skarbrand get karate chops. So very, very good play there. It was super fun. And yeah, Sternguard's always a great player to watch. I love watching his Dwarven builds. The Hammers actually performed very well. The Flamethrowers were kind of the weak link there, but Doomseekers were also very chad and hard to deal with. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed that game. That was a great one. And we will see you all on the other side. Cheers.